It's the first day of the Russia-Africa summit in St Petersburg. In a moment, we'll talk about Wagner in Africa. First, the Russian government paper Rossiyska Gazeta writes that the main idea is to boost Russia-African cooperation on all fronts. But Kommersant points out that at the first Russia-Africa summit in Sochi in 2019, 43 African leaders took part, compared to just 17 this time. It seems the novelty has worn off. Plus, events in Ukraine have played a part in influencing the decision on whether or not to come. Moskovsky Komsomolets, the Kremlin admits it's been much harder to organise the second summit than the first. According to presidential advisor Ushakov, Western countries led by the US put enormous pressure on African leaders not to accept their invitations. As for boosting trade, there's a long way to go. In 2019, Vladimir Putin complained that trade between Russia and Africa was only $20 billion and called for it to be at least doubled over the next 4 or 5 years. But by 2023, it had actually fallen to $18 billion. Izvestia is a fiercely pro-Kremlin paper in which you get opinion pieces like this by the Deputy Duma Speaker Pyotr Tolstoy, who claims that Western countries can't seem to cure themselves of their colonial mentality, which has developed over centuries. Expect to hear Russian officials make this accusation a lot over the next 2 days because they know it plays well in parts of Africa. And we can't talk about Russia-Africa without talking about Wagner, the Russian paramilitaries who've been very active there. Nezavisima Gazeta talks about them. Wagner's chief spheres of influence outside Syria and Ukraine are Libya, the Central African Republic, Sudan and Mali. Wagner's military resources in Africa are considerable. The Russian ambassador to the Central African Republic told RIA Novosti that 1,890 Russian instructors are supporting government troops in the civil war there. It's thought there are up to 1,200 mercenaries in Libya. In Mali, the anti-Western junta has brought in several hundred Wagner fighters. The paper predicts that Wagner will focus now on Sudan, which will play an important role in Russia's new Africa strategy. If Prigozhin and his fighters can achieve success on this front, their next may be Eritrea.